Hey everybody, welcome to another film breakdown. I'm Jack Hammer. Today I've got Coach Noah Johnson with me. Uh, really, the genesis for this conversation was Coach Johnson was putting up some really cool diagrams on his Twitter account a couple of days ago regarding some things that he thought the Niners could really benefit from, especially specifically the 49ers pass rush. And that was a topic that I was actually working on writing about. So I figured, with your guys' love for watching film breakdowns and for coaches' expertise in this area on the defensive side, what better way of bringing this to you than letting them actually come on and really talk through it and show you guys as the play's developing exactly what he's talking about. And I think we're both kind of on the same page as to what we think they can benefit from this year. So how you doing today, Coach?
Doing good. It's Friday. Good weather out here in the East Coast, so doing great.
Is it as hot out there as it is over this way?
Nah, it's about to get there. Like it's supposed to get 84 today, but then 90 the next 3 days. So.
Okay, that's actually way better than we are out here. Out here we've got low to mid 90s towards the coast this weekend, right? And I know in the Central Valley over in the Fresno area, they're going to be cooking the next couple of days around 109 plus. So definitely glad I'm not over in Fresno and the Central Valley this weekend. But
yeah, I don't actually right now. I don't have my AC on. I probably will put it on later, but right now I'm good.
There you go. So let's go ahead and jump into. I know you were kind of breaking down, showing some of the plays from their Week 16 game against the Arizona Cardinals, specifically against mobile quarterbacks and things like that. So, it was really interesting. What were some of your thoughts as you were breaking that down on Twitter that we can take a look at today?
Well, I just think as an overall philosophy is if you're going to be a 4-3 team, you especially now in today's age, you have to have athletic ends, it's just because with the way the quarterbacks can get outside on you, like there's no really way for you to take care of that except for having athletic ends. And the other part of it is it really limits your ability to play if you don't have an athletic end. It inhibits you from playing man coverage, right? Because if you're playing zone, you got eyes on the quarterback, and if he gets outside, at least you can get guys outside. But if you're playing man, there's your end is your last guy out there. If he can't contain the quarterback, he's got a free run until someone pulls off their coverage and gets him. I mean, even in NFL, it's so heavy match, right? So like. Just to explain people, so match is kind of a zone man hybrid. It's you're going to take you're waiting for the receivers to declare their routes, and then once they declare their routes, then it turns into man. So it's essentially like it's zone for a second or two, and then it turns into man. So you still have with match coverage. You're still vulnerable to quarterbacks running because once the receivers declare, you're covered. Your cover men have eyes on their assignment and not on the quarterback.
I think what we're going to look at here is a couple of examples of kind of what you're talking about as far as where they don't have the proper personnel to be able to really do what you're saying they need to be able to do.
Yeah, so I guess the first example is 7-14 in the first quarter, 3rd and 10.
Okay, perfect. The 3rd and 10. Okay, here we go. Bear with us if the video's a little slow. May I put it in slow motion for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So you're getting a rush here in 78. I think that's Wilkins, right? He can't even come off that block. And then there's that's Armstead. Is that Armstead? I can't see him on the far side. Is it 92 or 91 on the far side?
Let's go back to the beginning. That's going to be 92 on the outside here. 78, that's Jordan Willis down here. Armstead's in the middle.
Yeah, so you've got to have, if right now, if you picture it coming into this year, if Bosa and Ebukam are on the field, obviously Ebukam's the superior athlete to Bosa, but Bosa can probably has the ability. He definitely has more athletic ability than Kerry Hyder, which is 92. And that play right there, that play which is an incompletion, if that's Bosa or Ebukam, that's probably a sack. If at worst case scenario, he turns Kyler Murray back inside, and then you get one of your interior guys gets the sack, and that's kind of the difference where I think people give Armstead a lot of give flack this year because they're saying, oh, well, where's the sack production? Well, it kind of takes the rest of the defensive line. I mean, a lot of times to get push the quarterback back inside to the interior pressure. If he has access outside, he can go outside.
Yeah, I hear. And so in your example, we'd have something like that where this would be Bosa out here, or maybe even Ebukam. And let's say this is Ebukam over here, and Bosa's here on this one, just because Armstead's on the inside here, and then this one is Contavious Strait, I believe.
Yeah.
And this is that same play that you were talking about, or that we saw from the all 22 view to start with.
Yep.
And that's the one thing that I noticed about Ebukam is you watch him on film, he's just so athletic.
Yeah, he's super athletic. I mean, that's a nice swim move by Hyder, but then after he beats him, he just doesn't have the athleticism to accelerate. Like if that's Bosa or Ebukam, that's a sack. I mean, look,
the closing speed is going to be so much better.
Yeah, if he forces Kyler, if you look on that, if he forces Kyler to turn back, he's going to turn right back into whoever that is on the opposite side. It looks like a DB rushing, but that's probably a sack. Is that Witherspoon?
Yeah, they blitz. They come with a corner blitz on this one.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe, Witherspoon did a decent job tackling last year, so maybe he would make that tackle. But yeah. So Witherspoon misses it there, but if he turns him back in, I mean, it's probably a sack there.
Yeah. That's kind of the perfect example of what you see from Ebukam is kind of that his pass rush is very similar to what you see here with Hyder, where he's goes up and he's basically man in, and he's just kind of swimming and working his way around him and pinning that guy in. But if this is Ebukam, I could see where he'd definitely be able to close that gap a lot quicker.
Yeah, if you watch Ebukam can really accelerate, and I was in direct DMs with you yesterday, and I mean when you compare Ebukam with D Ford and their combine stats, like Ebukam's is even better than Ford's, and it shows on the film. Like his acceleration, it's up there.
Yeah, that's and I think that comes from the linebacker background, where that he's got that background of the linebacker position, and that's definitely going to be part of his game, is being able to really close on the tackle.
Yeah. So and this is a great instance where this is a win for defense. If I'm looking at as a DC, okay, that's a win. That's 3rd and 10 incompletion, right? But these are the you're splitting hairs here, where you're turning now an incompletion to a sack, and there's a lot of those in these instances this year where that's the effect that a Bosa and Ebukam, or like a D4 that's healthy, can have on your defense.
Yeah, and that's a situation where if we go back to that play really quick and just let it run, where if this is a sack, I understand it's 3rd down, they still get off the field here, but if they can sack the quarterback, it looks like they're going to sack him around about the 15-yard line if they were able to bring him down there, or almost to the 10. That's a difference of 17 yards between where they punt the ball from and where they possibly could have. So that could be from a overall game standpoint, instead of the 49ers getting the ball on the 26-yard line, where they do because of not being able to get the sack here, if they were able to come away with a sack, they might be getting the ball closer to midfield, out around the 45-yard line.
Right. It's a field position game, right? It's you're getting better field position back to Kyle, who could hopefully turn that into points. And I think just looking at this game and the Cardinals in general, I think the one thing if you can get Kyler Murray, you're going to get a lot of negative yardage if you do get him, because they drop him so deep because he's short, so they need him to see over the line. So if you can get him, you're going to get negative yardage.
Yeah, because he's having to get away from the lineman so much to be able, like you said, because of his height problem.
Yeah, he's
really got to get that depth to see over him.
Yep. Yeah. So the next one I've got is 146, 3rd and 2.
Okay. Scroll down to that one. 146, 3rd and 2. Okay. Yep. And this one ends up being a first down. So this will be interesting to see. The previous play was a good play, like we said, but still, instead of having a sack and losing the yardage, they're able to punt from the 27 instead of the 10. So that's a big field position difference. Let's go into this one. What are you seeing here?
So we got motion on outside. Looks like with a bunch play that I go.
So you've got a bunch here. Here's Kiter. Hyder's down here. This looks like Willis.
They're sending Warner outside to the opposite.
Yeah, and they have Armstead here.
Yep.
Just to kind of give us an idea. And then motioned into that bunch set. And they're bringing Greenlaw up the middle as well. So it's a all-out blitz.
Yeah, so you got to be able to turn. He's got to, like, on that outside there where 92. I mean, like, when you talk about speed and acceleration, you can really a fast defensive end can accelerate and really and get down there. And the other thing is, when you're talking about this wide 9 scheme, is so what it really does benefit speed rushers, especially in a pass situation, because what they're taught to do is to beat the offensive lineman to a spot. So you're accelerating to a spot, and what you're doing is you're reading that offensive lineman based off of if he can get to the spot. If he gets to the spot and he oversets, then you're going to go inside of him. If he can't get him, if you can't get to the spot, you're just gonna run and go and take it. Someone like Hyder, that's not really his game. But someone like a D Ford or an Ebicom, who's really a speed guy, he can really threaten that offensive lineman on the outside and beat him to that spot. And then if he does, even if the offensive line gets a hand on him, he's got enough acceleration to take that angle and go get him. And even Bosa's not. I wouldn't call Bosa super athletic, but he's more athletic than Hyder, and he's more athletic than Armstead. So that's a situation for me where having any of those guys outside, he can beat that offensive tackle and probably turn that into sack, or force Kyler to hurry that throw and make it an incompletion.
Yeah, because he's going to be able to get around that corner a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and that's he sent an all Saleh sent an all-out blitz there, so it's like, you're putting your secondary in a bind, so you kind of got to get there.
Yeah,
you got to force a hurry.
Right, so he's going to and Murray's he sees the blitz coming, and I think here, and he knows that he's going to go to his check down quick.
This is a great. So if you stop it here, Jack, this is a great instance, right? Like, if I can replace 92 with Ebicom is he's stood up before. This is something he's comfortable doing. So if you guys see that space, if you look at this space, that's a lot of space between the offensive tackle and the defensive end. And now, if you can picture a guy like Ebicom, just coming off and literally just he's going forward to beat that offensive tackle. He's going straight. That offensive tackle has to go backwards and to the side. So literally, he just has to beat him to that spot. And that's something that really that Ebocam is going to benefit. And Hyder is more of a power guy, and
like if I just take it back to, if we just go ahead and let this run, let me take it off of the slow motion. But that speed of what you're saying basically is that speed of Ebocam being able to stand up here, basically he's going to be able to explode probably around 74, where he might barely 74 might barely even be able to really slow him down.
Yeah, if you think about it, if he forces Murray to throw it a little bit earlier, like that's probably an incompletion. That's a ball to the sideline. It's a tougher ball. You want to give Verrett a chance. Verrett doesn't have help out there, and the other thing is you have to understand, because it's zero coverage, Verrett has to protect the inside first, so he can't let that guy just fly up inside. So he's got to give up that outside. Once he declares outside, he can go get it. So again, helping your coverage.
Yeah, you can't see it unfortunately from this angle, but yeah, he's definitely, you can see him having to kind of step in and play an inside leverage on him, and that's why the receiver's so wide open when he makes his break to the sidelines. Yeah. And even that, when you go and you look at this, when you can see, what you're talking about as far as Murray, because Murray gets to the back of his drop, and if he's got pressure, he's not quite as hopping into that throw quite as much as he does there. He's going to have to catch that ball in more turn, instead of catching that ball, kind of hopping to his left and then delivering it. So definitely a good point there.
Or you get a bat down, like, because remember Murray's only 5'10". I mean, you get a bat down.
Yeah, because it's a bad throw, or you're going to be closer. Exactly, where you can get your hands up and knock the ball down. That's a good point as
well. Next one, it's 15 seconds for first quarter, 1st and 10.
Okay, so this is the run play by Murray. I think he escapes. We'll just watch it once here in full speed. Yeah, because this is Jordan Willis down here at the bottom.
And Jordan Willis is not exactly, he's a better athlete than Hyder, but I think he has a lot of straight line speed. I don't think he has the athleticism to turn back out like we see here, right? And I think with this, especially when you're talking about mobile quarterbacks, it's acceleration, but then with mobile quarterbacks, it's also deceleration. How quick can you decelerate and then turn back the other way? And a guy like Ebocam, he's going to redirect better than Willis can. Now some of this is technique, where you got to be. Willis has to be careful going upfield so far, and like he wants to be, keep his hips parallel to the line of scrimmage so that he can redirect. But a more athletic end is going to do a better job of this. And I think if you look at it back on the other end, he just has to do a little bit better job, because I think there's a DB, if he just forces him a little bit further outside, it can turn into a 2-yard gain or like a loss.
Yeah, let's go back and look.
Is there? I think it's also no. They put him one high. Okay, so it's Warner. So even that backer or that they have leverage. They have leverage on it. I mean, if he does a little better job, and whoever's that guy on the inside pursuit, just turn him back into the inside. Like he lets him get the edge. A more athletic defensive end is probably not going to give that up unless he's just super undisciplined.
Yeah, right. And we're focusing right here on Willis, and you can see what you mean. He's getting up there. He's in a good position, but he just doesn't have the athleticism to be able to change direction and get going out to the outside. He's a little too. To me, when I watch this one, I think he's a little too flat, too short. I think he needs to be upfield a little bit more. Don't you? I think he needs to kind of get upfield to up more into this area.
You're mobile quarterbacks, you teach them to attack the outside shoulder. That
Mhm.
that helps them put them in position to put them in better position. But that's what I would. He needs to be. He's not in great position, like you said. He needs to attack the outside shoulder, and I would say keep parallel to the line of scrimmage, so you're not so far inside.
Yeah, understand. He needs to be getting up more up into this area instead of down in here reading it. He needs to be attacking more to that outside shoulder because he's got help coming around. If I think he's stopping because he sees the read action in the backfield. But if he just continues to keep coming and attacking this upfield shoulder here, that's fine because he's got to trust that this guy who's coming around is going to be able to make the play if Murray gets up in here. Because if he does his job and forces Murray into this area, you guys can hopefully see where my arrow is. If you can get him right there, basically back to run up over the head of the Cardinal right there on the field. He's got Warner right here to help him, and he's got the lineman who's twisting around to help him as well. And instead, he stays too flat. He doesn't have the athleticism to get back outside. And so instead of funneling this play inside, everybody's now having to chase.
Yeah, and the other thing and a really athletic defensive end, if you're going to play like an aggressive scheme and really threaten the read, is an athletic defensive end can make the read now. Like the quarterback has with a guy that doesn't have that athleticism, the quarterback has really time to read it. You can see the defensive end, but if they're letting a defensive end go and the guy can accelerate and get to the quarterback, that quarterback has to make it's now where you're getting hit, and that's in its own hurrying the decision making process can have an effect on an offense.
Yeah, and I can see where if this is Abacom or Nick Bosa, you're making a much better play here because both those guys are going to they're going to be getting upfield more aggressively because they're faster, like you said, they're quicker out. They're going to be quicker out of their stance, and I think they're both going to be a little bit more aggressive in attacking him downfield.
Yeah, I think Bosa is a little bit. He's a better technician. I mean, he's really technically sound with his hands, but he's and I'm for a rookie. I thought that he played with pretty solid discipline, and I'm assuming coming in this year he'll probably be even better on that as far as that part of his game.
Yeah, you would think so with his, as long as his knees healthy and stuff, you'd think he's going to be a little better there. Even from this angle, you can see where if this guy just keeps going, he's got help. I mean, watch, Contavious Street's coming right here. He's right there to make the tackle, and so is Warner. They're both
Street's there, Warner's there. Yeah, he has to attack that outside shoulder.
Yeah, and that's where the athleticism and the aggressiveness comes in.
The next one is second quarter, 8:52.
8:52. Okay. So another scramble. I think that previous play was more of just a zone read, and then this time we're going to get a pressure on the quarterback.
I think this is the one that I actually diagrammed up. Yeah, it's the twist on. So he gets he gets inside. The defensive tackle, I think it's Jones, gets inside pressure here, and it's
Jay Jones here.
Yep. The end stunt, it's there. Like the lane is there. Hyder just doesn't. He's just not athletic enough to execute this play. If you look at it, it's a wide loop. So you really need athleticism to execute it.
Let's see where they go. Yeah, because he takes two men with him.
I mean, that's a really nice job. He beats that, and now he forces Kyler to step up and point, and Hyder just can't make the play. I mean, if you look at it, if he's fast enough, he needs to get to the point. He needs to be at that point where Kyler's going to step up, like right now. Like he needs to be there. If he does that, he's going to stop it right there. if he is right there in front of Kyler Murray, that's a sack. If he doesn't, now Kyler could do one of two things. He could, if he tries to go outside to the left, you've got a defensive end on the left side. He can peel off that tackle and make play on the ball. And even if he doesn't, you've got another linebacker or safety with outside leverage there that can then go and tackle Murray. If he decides to try to turn it back, DJ Jones has leverage outside and should be able to make that play. So if you have a defensive end that can cover that ground and be in that proper spot, more than likely that's a sack.
Yeah, and I think when you get to it, as the where he misses is really right here, because you can see as he's coming off as Hyder is coming off, you can see his weight's kind of over his toes, and so he doesn't have balance, so he's leaning, and so as soon as Murray makes a move, he's unable to.
Yeah, that's the second part of it. Is he doesn't have the athleticism to change directions and make the play. But I think, in my opinion, it's a moot point if he can just get to the spot, which I think he's just not fast enough to do.
Yeah, you're thinking instead of where he is right now, he should be somewhere like over here, like almost like behind 71 almost by this point.
Yeah, I think if he's there, then he makes it, because Kyler can't. If he's there, Kyler doesn't have the room to do what he just does right here. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have the room. He's the offensive lineman is blocking him from making that cut.
Right. Yeah. And yes, I understand what you're saying. Because he's going to be right on top of him, and he's by the time, as you watch it, we're watching in slow motion, but you can see what you're saying, because by the time he kind of starts the move, the defensive end would be on top of him, and he wouldn't have that time to kind of reset his feet and make the move out to the right side. Right.
Yeah.
Because if he's on top of him right here, he's not going to have see that little quick step where he's able to set his feet to where he can then explode out. He wouldn't have that ability. So we're talking split second, but we're at the same time, those are a yard or half a yard that's making all the difference on this play.
Right. And there's another option here too. I mean, it's another factor in pass rushes. Kyler does have another option he could get sacked if you have a defensive end there that can be on that point, or he can throw the ball into coverage and it could probably get picked. So I think, with sacks and pressures, it's all reliant kind of on what the quarterback does. I mean, if he releases the ball into, maybe if Kyler's flustered, doesn't want to get it, he throws the ball, and now you might have a pick there.
Yeah, because if you look at it from that's a good point, because if you look at it from the wide view, and this is about that same point that you're talking about, where Hyder is still pretty close to the line of scrimmage, and instead he should be up another yard or two here. And so if he forces a throw, look at what Murray has. This guy's covered. This guy's covered. This guy's running into coverage in the safety. They're well covered all downfield. So if he tries to get the ball anywhere, you've got 49ers that could possibly pick that thing off.
Right now, if you think about it, let's say he releases it, and if he releases it, he's probably going to get hit on the release. And that, let's say he's trying to get it to the midfield, and that ball floats. You've got a free safety up over the top. You've got Witherspoon with outside leverage, and you've got Warner underneath it. If that ball floats, then it's probably going to get picked. Because you've got, look, do you see that diamond there? You've got a diamond of defenders that can get that ball.
Yeah, right here. You're talking about this diamond right here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Kind of, even this linebacker, all these guys. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So and again, this is these are just add up. These things just add up. So if you got some plays that are incompletions that might turn into sacks. You have other plays that are gains that could turn into losses, or a 5-yard gain turns into a 1-yard gain, or no gain, or an incompletion. A incompletion might turn into a interception because the quarterback heard it. All these things add up and change in that.
Yeah, totally change the complexion of the game. And even on this one, he scrambles for a first down, and Hyder knows that he blew it because he's yelling at himself right there at the end of the play.
Yeah. And Hyder's a good listen. I think, in my estimation, Hyder is he's an effort guy for me. I mean, he's got some moves. He's pretty solid with his pass rush. I think he's got his basics are solid, and he's got some counter game. But to me, it's like he's an effort guy, and that's not terrible. But it's perfect for a rotational guy. I think he did a great job for the Niners last year, and good. He went and got his money with Seattle, and good for him. But I mean, he's not a guy that I would want to play for my defense full time at that spot.
Yeah, he's a good road. He'd be a perfect rotation piece if he was sitting behind Bosa, like he was supposed to have done this year. Having him come on and play maybe half the snaps that he did, and really, I understand where you're going with that.
Yeah, and I think that's some of the difference. Like when you see them when they played quarterbacks that were they're the upper echelon in the league, when they the Aaron Rodgers of the world, the Josh Allens of the world. That's kind of when that defense fell apart, and I hypothesize that it's relative to not having those edge guys, because it doesn't it's a pressure point for the offense.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right on that, because they didn't have that ability to keep them in the pocket, kind of like what we've been talking about. They didn't have the athleticism on the edges that they should have had with their starters that could have really helped out the rest of the secondary and linebackers and so on.
So the next one I have is still second quarter. Is 2 minutes, 4th and 3.
Okay. Okay, so 4th and 3, and we're going to get another scramble here out of Murray.
Yeah. So on this play, it's a blitz with Hyder. Actually, looks like they have him as a spy, and he just can't beat him. He just can't beat Murray outside. Like it looks like to me that they have him as a spy on the side, or you're watching Murray, just make sure he doesn't get outside, and he lets him. Why? Because he just doesn't have the athleticism to beat him to that point. And I don't know, in this instance, I'm not exactly sure that Bosa could even do it, because that's Murray. Bosa might be able to, but Ebukam definitely can beat Murray outside. I mean,
yeah,
this is 4th and 3, right? So all you have to do is just don't let him get the first down.
Mm-hmm. Just keep them short of the 50. That's kind of that's a yard shorter of where the first down is. But that's kind of where you're hoping is to keep them at the 50-yard line, nowhere past that.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is this play right here where they're dropping him like this. You're 100% right. Like this would be, if this is Bosa, he might have some trouble getting there, but definitely Ebukam is going to be able to come down the line of scrimmage and make this play, because he's so much quicker.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm teaching that, I'm saying, like, listen, and I think Hyder actually did the right shot. Like, he has the angle, right? Like, just run straight across, because all you need to do is just don't let him get the first down, and he just doesn't have the speed. Like, he didn't dip too far inside or anything like that. He didn't think about it. He just doesn't have the speed to do it.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, there's not really it's not like he misplays this at all. He just doesn't have that explosiveness to get to the spot that he needs to get to.
Yeah, and again, that's something where, like, Ebukam can help them. And Ebukam, coming from a 3-4 defense, there is going to be some comfort level playing in space like that.
Yeah, and he has the speed. He's very good with his hands. That's one of the things I notice about his pass rush, because he doesn't seem to have a lot of moves. He's not really a refined pass rusher. He's kind of an effort guy in a way as well, in that it seems to me like most of the time when you watch him rush, he's really able to drive that tackle back, and then where his sacks come from is he's able to drive him back, kind of contain that edge. And then as soon as the quarterback starts to move, he's able to use his linebacker techniques to shed that tackle very quickly, and then close the gap, kind of like what we've talked about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in my estimation, I don't think he's not going to need a wide array of moves. I think he probably needs, because they can put him at that 9 spot and give him that speed rush, like I said, and key the tackle. He probably needs like for me, he probably needs a hard rip because he's an undersized guy, so most of those tackles are getting bigger than him. So teach him like a hard rip and then a counter off of that. After that, I don't think his technique doesn't have. He's not going to need the array of moves like, let's say, of a Bosa or like a Myles Garrett or even like as athletic as Chase Young is, or even as Chase Young.
Yeah, and then just going back to this play. I mean, at this point right here, the Niners are in trouble on this play because there's no way that this guy right here at 92 is going to be able to beat this guy to the spot over here on the sidelines, because at this point they're basically starting off at the same point, and you know that this guy is faster than this one. And that's what you see play out.
Right, and you guys can see it here, right? Man coverage, so that the rest of the defense has eyes on their man, or they're not looking at Murray. What's his name? You've got coverage like I think it's Everett on Hopkins. Like, he's not going to come off Hopkins until Murray comes past the line of scrimmage, because if he comes off Hopkins, that's going to be a touchdown. So it's Hyder and Murray. And then the other thing is, if the defensive end has the angle on him, if he decides to turn back, you've got Warner coming back inside. So
because this is definitely they're bringing the pressure off of this side, and they're kind of dropping him back kind of into the zone, and it's his job to kind of have the ultimate contain over here though still.
Yeah, I mean,
and if you over here, like you said, he's got the posse coming behind him to stop. I mean, if he's able to get over here and make this guy stop his feet, you got the perfect triangle to make that tackle.
Yeah, and
right, you're talking about that diamond in coverage, and you kind of have that here where if he can stop this guy and turn him inside, he's got 54, 57, all here to help make the tackle.
Yeah, and and again, all he has to do is stop him from getting the first. If he just stops him from getting the first down, it's turnover on downs.
Yeah.
And Warner, he's so sound. Like, even if you look at how Warner rushed compared to was it Wilkins on 78? Like, he's outside shoulder. I mean, for a guy that's not a defensive end, he's doing it right.
Yeah, that's a good point, because that's exactly what we were talking about, right? Attacking and getting up into this area here instead of coming too flat where you can belly around you. That's a really good point, because that's what he does here, right? He's upfield enough to where Murray knows he can't escape out and around this way. He's got to take off to his left. That's the way he can go. That's a really good point.
And again, you're seeing that, like, with, we talked about it before, how a faster defensive end can make the quarterback make a decision. Now, I would say, as far as acceleration and everything, Ebukam he's got better acceleration than Warner, so he's going to be there. If you replaced Ebukam or Warner with Ebukam there, he's going to be there sooner. In that regard, like, he's a better athlete than Warner. I mean, I don't know, I wouldn't say as far as hips and coverage and all that, but if you're just talking like beating a man to a spot, like, he's a better athlete. So he's going to force, if Ebukam's on the opposite side, if he's in Warner's spot, he's going to force that quarterback out the other side sooner.
Yeah.
So
would you say, like, if we're looking at this, if this play was taking place this season, so let's say this was whatever the first week is that they're playing against them in 2020, that Bosa would be lined up here, number 9, where Armstead is, and this would be Ebukam on this side over here, based on the way that they would probably try to align those players, knowing that they're going to be having the blitz coming off of this side.
Yeah, I think ideal contained players, it would be Warner and Ebukam, right? Because they're both athletic guys, and Bosa inside. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I mean, imagine having Ebukam here, taking this guy and making, instead of Armstead being here, have this be Bosa, and this guy here is going to be Armstead, instead. And that totally changes the way that this defensive line is going to be acting.
Yep.
Be able to go. And then you throw in 93. DJ Jones, for as big as that guy is, he sure is athletic, don't you think?
Yeah, they've got a few of those guys that are like that. I mean, even like Kinlaw is athletic on the defensive line. For a guy that's 320 pounds, I mean, right?
Yes.
He returned that interception for a touchdown. And it takes a certain degree of athleticism to come up with some of those bats that he does. So yeah, they've got some. Their problem hasn't been the interior, right? They've been haven't. I mean, Street. Is it? I'm trying to. Contavious Streets, right? He's
Mhm.
super athletic. Like he's incredibly powerful and he's athletic. I think he ran his 40 time because he was injured, but supposedly he runs like in the 4.6s or 4.7s. So
Yeah.
they've got mismatches all around on the inside, and that's not been the problem. The problem is on the outside. If you only have it on the inside and you can't contain on the outside, then it's not going to help you much. I mean,
Mhm.
unless your mismatch is like to the nth degree, like Aaron Donald.
Yeah. Well, and Contavious Street is a really good player, and that's one of the things that he's actually a defensive end on their depth chart, but he plays defensive tackle for them pretty much. That's where they utilize him the majority of the time. I'm going to do a film breakdown at 2:00 looking at Javon Kinlaw's game against the Rams. So that's the one you're talking about where he has the interception and the return for the touchdown. And the one thing that jumped out to me when I was charting that game for my review was how little he really played in that game. Kinlaw didn't play a whole lot in that game. They really used Contavious Street and Kevin Givens quite a lot more in that game. Not quite sure why, because that was coming off of a pretty good performance against New Orleans. But that was one thing that jumped out at me.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'll be curious to see how he does this year. I think an underestimated component of all the rookies last year is that they all missed. They didn't have preseason, right? So that's a 4-game development that they could have had up until that point. So a guy like Kinlaw didn't get those 4 games, didn't get that 4-game work. So he was. If you compare him to other pass rushes of other seasons, he's 4 games behind, in my opinion, because
Sure.
he doesn't have that getting used to what it's great going up against your own guys in practice, but going up against other guys in a game scenario, it's different. And I think all the rookies kind of they were working with last year because they didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah, it was basically week 5 by the time they got through what would normally be a preseason, right? They're already in week 5 of the regular season, so they've lost that development time, like you're saying.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how he does. So I've got one more here. It's 8 seconds left in the second.
Okay, perfect. Let's jump to that one, and then there's a couple of questions that maybe we can touch on too. I'd like to get your thoughts on it. This is right at the end of the half.
Yep. It's not up. You got to put it back up on the screen. We're looking at ourselves.
Oh, there we go. Hey, look how There we go.
You go.
Thanks for catching that.
I mean, they've got. I think that's Armstead outside. I mean, yeah, you get an incompletion there, but like this isn't. No, I'm sorry, not Armstead. That's Hyder. It's still Hyder outside, but you've got Warner. You got Warner there, and now you've got Hyder. Like, oh, there's Armstead. I'm sorry. So
he's really wide though to start with. He must become because he's not even in
the
start display.
Like I think they just don't want it right. I don't think that they're trying to say, hey, Murray, don't run outside and buy time and make a crazy play. But if this is Bosa or if it's Ebukam or you flip them and I would prefer Ebukam to the wider side of the field, but that's just me. It's a different. I mean, even this is an incompletion. It's a good play, but it's going to force that ball out sooner because he's going to get to that spot quicker.
Yeah. Yep. and you're going to have to get that ball up earlier. Who knows what happens because it's a result of that ball leaving his hands earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the end of the half, so I mean, the chance that them doing anything, it's probably pretty slim. But I just wanted to show an example of what it looks like when Armstead's there, and then versus if you put a more athletic defensive end pass rusher, it's different.
Yeah, because in reality, this should be D Ford or most likely would have been D Ford, and this year it's going to be Ebicom, and over here instead of having a Kerry Hyder, that's going to be Bosa. Like I think that's pretty much. I think on this the way that they have this one lined up is kind of goes. I think Saul is kind of on the same line of thinking as you are. He wants of these two guys, of Armstead and Hyder. Armstead's the more athletic of those two, I would think. So that's why he's got him lined up where he does, and so on.
Yeah, I think that right. I would put the more athletic guy to the field, and then to the boundary the less athletic guy. And I think if you've got that, then maybe Kyler hurries it, but on a regular down and distance play, I mean, you might be able to turn this into an interception or a sack. And we're talking as if D Ford isn't even on the roster anymore, and I think that's the way you do need to approach it. Because honestly, in my opinion, I don't think the Niners expect to get anything out of D Ford, and I don't either. They're not going to say that publicly, though. I mean, you can't. But if they do, if somehow D Ford even comes in and can give you be a situational pass rusher, I think that's a big plus to the 49ers defense.
Yeah, and that's kind of what they've said, right? Is that he's still working out, and we might get something out of him. We're not sure. They've kind of left the door open, but I think you're right. I think if they get anything out of him, that's just gravy on top of everything what they're really expecting. That's just kind of like the cherry on top of whatever else they're getting out of their.
Yeah,
they
can't. Guys. They can't. If you look at, I don't want to get into salary cap specifics and all of that, but they can't release him because he's injured. So they can't. If they could, they would, I think, but they can't. So that's why he's on the he's still on the roster. He can't. He would still be due his money if they released him. It would still count on the cap. So it's like they're better off if he wants to come back and try it. Like they're better off just letting him do that rather than just straight out releasing him.
Yeah, I'll hit the cap piece real quick because when they redid his deal, to kind of help save some of the money with him not being able to play this year. The way that they did that was that his cost of the salary cap is the same as what his dead money is this year. So even if he was healthy and they wanted to release him, because of the way they redid his contract, there's a net of no positive gain for them to release him at this point. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's. If they if they get anything, even like to the point where if he just needs more time and you need to hold him out to the last quarter or the last half of the year and say, hey, if even if he's just Ebicom is the number one situational pass rusher and D Ford is just spot rusher, that's gravy too. Like, because I'd rather have a healthy D Ford on the healthy D Ford on the field is way better than Arden Key.
Yeah, I agree. I think if there's some way that they can keep him around on the roster to where, even if it's the last game of the season, I mean, if they can get anything out of him, it's a positive. I kind of used the example of way back in the early 2000s, I think it was late 90s, when the 49ers brought back Charles Haley for the playoff game against the Packers.
Okay.
He hadn't played all year long. They brought him in, and he played about 15 or 20 snaps against the Packers and in that wild card game, and then he played, the following week against the Falcons. That's kind of if they can do something, if they can somehow manage that with Ford, that would be, gravy for them.
And if he's available, I mean, if he's available and he is healthy, like having packages where you got Bosa, you could have where you have Bosa, Ebicom, and Ford on the field at the same time. Like now you can get really inventive with your packages and all of that. But I mean, I wouldn't expect it because I personally don't expect Ford to do much.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. Let's take a look at, if you're okay with just taking a couple of questions. Uh, Gavin, who is the Wiley guy from over in Wales. I don't know if he's still with us or if he's dropped off at this point, but he asked if DJ Jones can make an improvement this season. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think DJ Jones has always played well. His issue is, one, he's got to stay healthy. Two, I think if what he could do is he could see improved statistical production because of what we just talked about, of those ends being there and forcing quarterbacks back inside, or forcing them to step up. He could see increased statistical production. But I think he's a good player, and he could certainly get better. I wouldn't expect him to turn into Aaron Donald, but I think you could see increased statistical production. And with increased statistical production comes more accolades. His Madden rating is going to go up, and everyone's going to say, "Oh, he's a good player."
Right, look how much better he was. I understand what you're saying, because if they're getting more pressure around the edges, the only place for that quarterback is to go us right to where he is. So that would be it.
We showed a play, right, where he beats, they tried to double him. He beats the double team. Then he comes inside and he beats he still got one man on him, and he ends up beating the guy and taking the outside. So he's doing his job.
Yeah, he's doing really well. Let's look at one more, and this is a question that I had. It works well with my breakdown from a couple days ago on Kinlaw, and the one I'll be doing a little bit later. But do you think that he can develop a second move? And if so, what kind of move would you like to see him maybe develop that we're not seeing so far?
Yeah, the thing about with pass rushers, right? It's like you can teach a template of move, your template, but you have to, and this is where coaching comes into. You have to see where the player is comfortable and what he likes and what kind of works for him. And I plan on doing a Bosa breakdown at some point, but Bosa uses the Ohio State template, and he does that. That's his thing, and he loves it, and it fits him to a T, and he's mastered it. Which is, Ohio State will teach you. It's a power based. They teach you to attack the offensive tackle, and give him power, and read him if he overset, then go inside, and they teach the side scissor, it's basically your long. They teach them a long arm and a side scissor, and then you're going inside or outside. That's the template. And if you look at what Bosa does, that's what he uses, and that's kind of what he's mastered. Kinlaw, that would fit Kinlaw's game. He would fit a power and then working some speed off of that. But he might not be comfortable with a long arm and a side scissor. It might be he might like a long arm and a rip. He might, they have to. I don't know what Kasarik teaches as his base, but whatever you teach as teach that. And if the guy, and then you teach a little bit off of that, and then find out what he's comfortable with. But I think, for me, Jack and I talk about this in DMs. Kinlaw has really long arms. He actually has longer arms than Armstead or Buckner, both of which are 6'7", and he's 6'5". I think he has to be able to use those long arms. I would definitely want him to have a long arm in his game. And that's a power aspect, and then you can teach them something off of that, which could be a rip, could be a swim. I think a swim would he's done. I've seen him try to execute swim moves before. The thing about the swim move is the offensive lineman has to be low for you to execute it. You don't want to even use a high set; it's not going to work.
You got to build your charm over him.
Yeah, for me, if your move is a rip, if your move is a swim, then you have to have a rip in your game, because you have to be able to, when the offensive lineman counters that, his counter is going to be to go high. When he does that, then you got to be able to rip it.
Yeah, gotcha. Because
So
I
yeah,
see him really try to use power all the time. Right, when you watch him, it's usually he's bull rushing and he's just trying to drive that guy back into the backfield. Is the majority of the time what you see out of him. That kind of what you see out of him most of the time. You don't really see him really attacking a shoulder or anything like that too often.
yeah, he's got to get. I would say and that's why I would say I think the long arm, it's a great technique because it really lends itself to having a counter off of that. I would teach him a long arm and long arm the inside plate of the offensive line, and then based off of if the offensive lineman is able to counter that, then you have your rip or your swim, and maybe that's something he's working on right now. I would. He's got a guy that is really technical sound, and Nick Bosa. That's a guy that he should hang out with and kind of pick his brain.
Yeah, I would think so. That would definitely seem to make sense because from what I'm hearing, you say a lot of the things that Bosa is doing are things that would work well with him because they're similar style of players.
Yeah, and a great guy to actually pick. And they've also have this guy too. It's Trent Williams, right? Because Trent is an offensive lineman and he's intelligent. He speaks really well. If you talk to Trent, I bet he'll tell you what can give him some problems. And even Alex Mack, I would even pick the offensive lineman and say, listen, what gives you, I'm a power guy. What gives you problems? What are some of the things that offensive or defensive linemen are doing to you?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Go talk to the guys you're working against every day in camp, and I think that kind of goes on to with Nick Bosa and him going up against Joe Staley on a regular basis, right, in camp. And it seemed like there was a lot of discussion between the two of them his rookie year and kind of working back and forth to improve his game.
Yeah, I picked out Mack and Trent because I just think from hearing them speak, I think they have the type of personality that would accept that conversation, and then also the intelligence and experience to be able to understand what the defensive lineman is looking for and then convey it properly to Kinlaw.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the last one really quick, and I think I got this one too, is Daniel asks who will be the starting edge opposite of Bosa. And I think this one there's a couple of different answers of this because it really, when you're talking about the starting edge opposite of Bosa, in base downs, we know it's going to be Eric Armstead because that's his role. He's he's going to be an edge player in the base defense. Would you say that if they came out and say a nickel, though, that it would be Ebukam would be the guy that you'd expect to be starting on the opposite side?
I think that's what they want to do. They want to put in pass rushing situations. They want Ebukam on one side and they want Bosa on the other, and they want to get Armstead inside. On base downs or run downs, then they're going to put Armstead at the defensive end spot. If they get in a pinch, they'll use Armstead at defensive end spot. But pass rushing time, they want to put Ebukam there. Yeah,
because they want to get Armstead into the middle of the defense. And I have one question for you real quick, and then we're getting on an hour. What do you think? Because this is a name that I actually forgot that this guy was even on the team until I started looking through the depth chart a couple of days ago. But Zach Kerr, what do you think his role might be, or where do you think will he fit in with this defense?
It's an interesting, right? Because he's a nose tackle. He's got that nose tackle build, and that's what I think he's traditionally. Did he come from the Raiders? Is that what he
came from? He was with the Panthers last.
Okay, I think when you look at him, he's nose tackle build. I think if you look at the Niners last year, and when they moved Buckner, I think if you looked at before they moved Buckner, right, one of the things that was coming out from the Niners was, hey, they want to get bigger inside. We want to get bigger inside. We feel like we need to get bigger inside. And then the whole Buckner thing happened, and they drafted Kinlaw. I think a guy like Kerr maybe fits that build where they're just trying to get bigger bodies inside. I think Kerr he's not totally removed of pass rush ability. It'd be interesting to see if they actually use an absolute nose and use some of those sets where he's actually at the nose tackle position. Could they possibly use some two gap with a player like him, even if they two gap over a guard instead of a center? And I do think, in looking at the scheme, I do think they give their defensive linemen. I mean, I would, if you want to call it two gap, but I do think they give guys like Armstead the flexibility to go even on run inside outside, because I think they want to run an aggressive scheme, and that's essentially two gap. Even though they're not a two gap team, it is essentially a two gap.
Right. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens, because they added Kerr, they also added Maurice Hurst, and that middle of the rotation. You've got DJ Jones, who is a pretty good player. Kevin Givens is a pretty good player. Those are two guys that are coming back from last year that are pretty good. Contavious Street. So there's really a really strong three-man rotation in there. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see what their thoughts are when it comes to guys like Kerr and Hurst that they've added this offseason, to kind of how that's all going to play out.
Even Daniels, right? Like, I forgot his first name, but Daniels last year had a really good camp. I remember he was one of the guys that Grant was talking about that looked really good. I think Daniel is like 6'4", 6'3", 310 or something, or 320 from, I think, Nebraska. I think he got in. I think he got in some late last year with them, but I think he's another guy that's in there. Like, they're gonna have options. They're gonna cut some guys that are gonna end up on other teams.
Yeah, Darian Daniels is the one you're talking about. Yeah, he's from Nebraska. 6'3", 311 guy.
Yeah, I don't think he's a terrible option either. They've got a lot of talent inside. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see like some of those guys get cut, and then Salah scoops them up over out here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. Was there anything else you wanted to add today?
No, I think we covered it. And hopefully people can see what we're some kind of things that we were talking about and why. The Niners were. I think it was one of their first moves in free agency to sign Ebukam, and I think it's the only guy they signed that wasn't a 49er, right? Like, outside of, they re-signed all the guys and then they signed Ebukam.
Yeah, he was the one big free agent signing from outside the organization.
They signed Alex Mack. I'm sorry, but they signed Mack and they signed Ebukam.
Yeah, but the Mack signing came further down the road. Ebukam was, I think, right at the beginning of free agency. They were able to bring him on board. Yeah,
you could see that, like, they wanted that speed component. They need that D forward role filled out, and I think that's why they got Ebukam, and they need it for our defense to go to that next level, to be able to turn some of these plays to negative plays and turn positive plays to no gainer.
Right. Yeah. To really step back, kind of just step back to where they were the year before, back in 2019. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So. I appreciate you making the time to come on. I know you got a busy day, because I think you're going to be getting on another stream here in about an hour, if I'm right, with the boss man.
The old Coner.
yeah. And then appreciate everybody that joined over and asked some questions for us today, and those that watched. So we're Coach and I have been working on some stuff, so hopefully we'll have some more shows for you guys down the road, and then as we get closer to the season as well. So keep yourself tuned in, and if you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the little notification so that when we go live, we're on. So thanks everybody for joining, and have a great day.
All right, everyone. Have a good one.